Hi, tonight we're going to make chicken parm, but I wanted to start with making some homemade sauce first. Now, obviously you can use your favorite jarred sauce if you want to, or if you want to try making it from scratch, it's really easy, and I'll show you how. We bought probably maybe about 15 Roma. I like San Marzano tomatoes the best, but they're very hard to find, but you should be able to find Roma tomatoes, or plum tomatoes are sometimes called. So my sous chef, Bruce, is preparing the tomatoes for me, and I roast them first like I did with the tomato soup. And he's showing you how we seed them. And we take all the seeds out, cut the end off, and then he's going to cut them in half and take all the seeds out of it. You may be going, why are you doing that? You're not going to have any tomato left. Yeah, we will. I'll show you when we get there. You'll really be surprised. And you may ask, why are you taking the seeds out? Well, first of all, it'll make it very watery if you don't take out the internal membrane and the seeds. Plus, if you have any kind of digestive issues, you probably don't want to eat the seeds or the skin because of the lectins in them, which I also explained in the tomato soup recipe. So he's finishing up with the last couple of tomatoes, putting them on the tray, and I already have one tray that has been roasted, and I'm waiting to get these finished so that I can finish up. So we will get these in the oven in just a minute, and I'll show you how I season them up first. Okay, now I'm gonna just season these up a bit before we put them in the oven at 425. And it doesn't hurt when you're doing any roasting if you put the pans in the oven and let them heat up so that they're nice and hot when you put your vegetables on to put them back in. So you can see I'm just drizzling some good olive oil over the tomatoes. I'm going to sprinkle some nice sea salt over that. And then I really love this Borsari seasonings. It comes in several different flavors. This is the cracked black pepper. There's a citrus, and then there's the original blend. You can get these at Whole Foods. I love these. These are really my go-to seasoning, other than when I grab my fresh herbs, which we will do when we get the tomato sauce going. So I'm just liberally sprinkling it, and I'm gonna mix it all around, make sure the tomatoes all get covered, and then I'm gonna put them in the oven, and they'll be in there for probably about 30 minutes, but I'll keep checking them and make sure. And when they come out, I'll show you, we just pull the skin right off of them. Again, you don't want the skin in your tomato sauce, and I also don't want the skin because of the lectins that are in them. So we'll put these in the oven, and then when they're done, we'll finish up the sauce. Okay, so while the tomatoes are roasting, I want to get some pepper and some not green onion, but some pepper and some onion. Bruce is chopping my onion up over here for me. And I just wanted to quick tip when you cut your green pepper, actually to start with, when you bring your peppers home from the store, go ahead and clean them then. Wash them good with Veggie Wash and put them away. And then that way when you go to use them, all you actually have to do is, as you can see here, I cut the tops off, and then I just pulled the seed pod out of the interior and some of the membrane and cut them, and then we're just going to cut these up, and we're going to put them on our pan, and I'm going to do the same thing with them that I did with the tomatoes. I'm going to drizzle them with the olive oil, the salt, and the Borsari seasoning. I'm also going to do about 7 cloves of garlic, and these vary in size. And we're going to, Bruce, why don't you go ahead and show how to just push down on it. Easy way, smash your garlic and the skins come right off. And we're just going to throw these on the pan as well and roast them, because when everything is done and we get it in the sauce pot, I will use my immersion blender to blend everything up. Okay, love, the onions and peppers and tomatoes are roasting, I wanted to make some pesto because I thought I'd put a little bit of pesto on top of our chicken parm tonight. And I will post a recipe on this, but it's really, this and the sauce both are very forgiving. There isn't any real specific measurements, but this is about 2 ounces of basil. And you've heard me say, if you've watched my other videos, I tend to use organic or at least non-GMO, all natural foods. So here is the package of the basil, and I'm going to use some of this basil in the sauce. I'm also going to be adding, you know that I'm doing dairy-free. You do not have to do dairy-free. You don't have to do organic, but this is the butter that I typically use, and I'm telling you, you're really not. If you want to go dairy-free, you're not going to notice any difference between this and the taste of real butter, and this is so much better for you. Parmesan I'm using is this Violife Parmesan, vegan Parmesan, and again, this is one of those brands that I found that really tastes the best. I've tasted and tested a lot that are horrible and I would never recommend, but these are 2 of the brands that I definitely would recommend. So what I have in my food processor is about a handful of walnuts. Now, you typically with a pesto recipe, they use pine nuts, but you can also use walnuts or whatever nut that you happen to have. I just kind of like the taste with the walnuts, and I didn't have any pine nuts tonight. So I'm gonna add the basil. We're gonna put everything in here. I've got 2 pretty good size cloves of garlic. You can see, and I'm dumping those in. I'm gonna put my lid on, and then I'm gonna whir this all up before I actually add in the olive oil. I want to try to get this going. So this is going to get a little noisy, and I'll add the olive oil here in just a few minutes. So take it off and take a look. You can see down in here how everything is getting all ground up. And I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to turn it up on high. And now you can see it's getting pretty pureed, but it does need some liquid. So we're going to add olive oil while we are doing this. I'm going to push the sides down. Whoops, that's not what I was looking for. Let me grab my little spatula. Thought I had everything with me. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of push it down. And I'll just keep blending it, adding a little at a time as I need it to get it really emulsified. Now, I'm also going to add maybe, I don't even know if it's quite a tablespoon, but maybe, yeah, about a tablespoon of the butter to this. Just adds a little bit more richness and creaminess. And I'm going to go ahead and add in my Parmesan too and let that just kind of blend in.
How much parm did you use?
I'm sorry, that was about a half a cup of the parm. And we're going to add just a little bit of salt to this. Kind of want to give it a little taste here. So I do want it a little bit more emulsified. That's tasting pretty good. Got a lot of garlic in there. just a touch of salt. And like I said, I'm going to add just a little bit more olive oil. One more time, I want to check the texture. It looks like it's getting where I want it to be. Can you see the beautiful color? You know, you can also use, instead of basil, you can use parsley, you can use spinach, and you won't notice too much of a difference. So let's see here. That's pretty good. Might have been a little bit too much garlic in this one, but I like a lot of garlic and that's okay. And a little bit more consistency. Okay, probably just a touch more salt and I would say it's ready. It just depends. You may want a little more oil, a little more butter, but I think this is pretty right the way it is. Okay, so I'm going to, there's the pesto. I'm going to put it in a dish and have it then when we use it for the chicken parm, and I'll show you how I'm going to use it for that. Now I want to pull the tomatoes out of the oven. Oh, can you see those? How beautiful. I wish you could smell it. It smells wonderful. I'm going to let those cool. I don't want to get my fingers in there and pull the skins off with it this piping hot, but I will show you that. We'll let this cool off, and then I'm actually going to use the whole thing, including the olive oil, when I dump it in the pan to make the sauce. I'm going to let the onions and peppers, I'm going to let the garlic go about another 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, and we'll pull those out, and these should be cooled down, and we'll put the sauce together and we'll let that cook. Okay, my last batch of tomatoes is cooled enough that I can handle it, and I've already been pulling the skins off, but I wanted to show you how easy the skins just pull right off, and you're left with just the nice meat of the tomato. So it just takes a few seconds. There might be a few seeds still in here, but we'll survive that. Get one more after this one. Oops. Okay. Now I'm going to pitch these skins, and we'll dump all of the tomatoes and these wonderful juices into the pot. And here I have the ones that I had roasted previously, and I pulled out the pieces of garlic from the onions, and you can see how nice and roasted those are. And I pulled those out because I want to zhuzh this all up with my immersion blender. And this also has some microgreens in it. So I'm going to dump these skins, and we'll put this in the pot, and then I'll show you briefly how I use the immersion blender. All right, we're gonna dump it all in here. Sorry, I'm probably right in the way of the camera, but as you can see, everything in the pot. Then we just throw the foil or the parchment paper away. Now what I want to do is I want to actually just use my immersion blender. These are great if you don't have one. I recommend you get one because you can use these for all kinds of recipes. So we'll just go in here, and we're going to zhuzh it all up and make sauce. And while I'm doing this, you can definitely, as I said, buy a jar of marinara and use it for whatever recipe. You can also buy the big cans of tomatoes and then just season those up the way that I'm going to be seasoning them. Or you can make it from scratch with your own tomatoes. I recommend you at least try it because it's a wonderful flavor. In the summertime, it's going to be a lot cheaper. I usually will buy up maybe a half a bushel or a bushel of tomatoes if I can get my hands on them. And I make up my sauce, and then we will can. And some of them we just put in jars and put in the freezer, and that way we have them most of the winter time. So I'm going to keep blending this up a little bit longer because I still want some chunks in it. It just depends on how you like your sauce. See how it's getting thick? Immersion blender. Think I need to invest in a new one. All right, that's pretty much the consistency that I like. You can keep doing this, or you can put it in a blender and get it as pureed as you would like. But that's about what I'm going to do with it. Let me grab a little bowl to put this in so I don't make too much of a mess. Then I'm going to add in the onions and the peppers. Again, I'm going to dump in. I'm going to use all the juices and the olive oil. We want to get every bit of flavor we can. And I mentioned I put some microgreens in with the tomatoes. Another way of just bumping up the nutritional value of your sauce. And here we go. Let me scrape all of this off. Then what I'm going to do is just turn the fire on, and I'm going to let all of this simmer. But just quickly, I put the pesto in a little bowl, and you may have to stir it when you go to use it because the olive oil, and even with the jarred pesto, the olive oil will rise to the top. Now, when you think about making it, a jar of the organic pesto is almost $7. And to make it yourself, even using all organic products, it was probably around $3. So almost a little less than half the price. And this is about the amount you're going to get in one of the jars at the store. And you saw how easy it was to make it. But definitely you can buy the jarred pesto if you prefer, you just don't have time to make it. So we're going to turn the fire on under the sauce. And I'll, when I get ready to put it in some jars, let it cool down and put it in some jars, I will show you what it looks like. This has been cooking for maybe about, whoop, there it's popping, talking to me a little bit. It's been cooking for probably about 20 minutes. So I now want to add in my herbs. I've got basil here, probably about maybe 3 or 4 tablespoons of the chopped basil. I have two big heaping tablespoons full of parsley and about the same of oregano. I'm going to mix these in. And I did zhuzh up my sauce just a little bit more to break up some of the onions and peppers and get some more of the flavor in that way. And then I'm stirring in the herbs now, and I'm going to let it just kind of simmer with these herbs. I wish you could taste this. I'm telling you, you really need to try it from scratch, making your own sauce. There is just not a better flavor. You can also, if you want to make a vodka sauce, You could add a little bit of vodka to this and a little bit of cream. If you don't want to use cow's milk, in my case, I would add just a touch of coconut cream or a little almond milk if I was going to do that, but I'm just going to do this the way it is. And we're going to have enough to make some chicken parm, and we'll have some left over to make some meals for the rest of the week. Using fresh tomatoes instead of canned tomatoes, you also don't have to let it cook as long, because canned tomatoes, you'll get a little bit of a tinny taste in them if you don't cook them for a while and cook that taste out. With the fresh tomatoes, you don't have that. So you can heat it up pretty much and you're ready to go if you don't want to just let it set and simmer and let all the flavors meld. But this will be ready to use. I could use it right now if I wanted to. I'm going to let it set and just simmer for maybe another 30 minutes, and then it'll be ready. I'll jar some up and put in the freezer, and we'll use some to make some chicken parm here in just a little bit. So I hope you'll try this, and bon appetito.